Hello everyone, and welcome to a review. Free Guy is a Ryan Reynolds movie that has been delayed, as have a lot of movies this year. Now this movie is a video game movie, of which there are two types. One is the adaptation, it's where a video game is adapted for the big screen. This is the other kind, where it's a movie that's set in a video game. Ryan Reynolds brings a lot of funny to his roles. He brings a lot of comedy. You know, it's part of what makes his Deadpool portrayal so good. Now, Free Guy follows the titular character, Guy. Guy is an NPC who goes from being just a normal NPC to being a hero character and leading the other NPCs to freedom, hence the title. Now, all of this we've seen in the trailers, so this part has no spoilers. Now, the trailers are very funny, and they are what drew me to this movie. But surprisingly, there is actually less of that in the movie than I expected. I expected this to be just a really funny movie all the way through, just laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs. But it's surprisingly dramatic at times. The story is rather good, enjoyable in and of itself and not just because of the humor. But the humor itself is not quite what I expected, or at least it's not what I personally enjoy. There's a lot of crude humor in this. There's quite a bit of humor surrounding the love story involved. Guy meets a player character by the name of Molotov Girl, aka Millie, and then after a bunch of shenanigans, he gets the glasses that the player characters of the game have. That is basically their heads-up display, shows all of their gadgets and kit. It gives them the powers that allow them to be players in that world. Now, Guy gets this and uses it to become a hero of his world, so he can impress the player character, who's, of course, he's in love with. And there's a bit of a love romance going on there. Guy is a bit of a lovesick idiot, and the romance is a little bit over the top, at least on Guy's side. But yeah, overall, that's sort of what it is. It's a good movie, a lot of humor, a lot of it is cringy, but there's a lot of moments that sort of stretch out and are more story-based, and the story is really good. So I'd say cringy humor, great story, with generic music that I couldn't even find an OST for on Spotify. The CGI is a little bit iffy here and there. I feel like that's intentional though, because it's in a video game, and when we jump back to the real-world shots of the screens of the video game, everything looks digital anyway. That's not really big of an issue. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit too spoiled by PS5 graphics, or at least the videos of them. I've not actually played a PlayStation 5 yet. Grrr. Alright, before I continue, I'm going to drop into spoilers mode, so if you haven't seen the movie, go see the movie and come back when you're done. Now, I'm going to be talking from my notes from now on, because talking out of my brain did not work so well last time. So this movie flashes back and forth between the game world that they're in and the real world, and they kind of discuss that at some point, because a major plot point of the movie is that the NPCs, like Guy and his friend Buddy, are not alive because of movie magic like Wreck-It Ralph. They are actual real characters that are alive for an in-world reason. They're described as artificial intelligences that are really intelligent and can learn and are like us but in virtual. They bring up a really interesting point in this. There's this thing called the simulation conjecture. It's the idea that we are living in a virtual world, that we are not real, per se. We're not physical beings. There's a possibility that we are code in a computer that's way more advanced than anything we could believe. And the probability of that is supposedly far greater than the probability that we're physically real. And the story actually dives into that. Guy finds out about 2/3 of the way into the movie that he is living in a virtual world, that he is not real, that he is an NPC. And he actually goes to his friend and has this conversation, and Buddy comes to the conclusion that, well, it doesn't matter if they're virtual or physical, that they are still real, right? They're still real people with real problems in their own real world. It doesn't really matter. And this is sort of an important point. People hear about the idea of, oh, we're virtual people, we're not real, and just freak out. But really it doesn't matter, because we are in this world and this is what we're experiencing, and that is real enough. And this movie takes that side, and it's a really interesting thing that it actually dives into that. This is a sort of high level, fringe discussion area, but it is actually in this piece of mainstream media. It's actually kind of cool. Speaking of the real world, in this movie there are some cameos from various gamers. You get Jacksepticeye, which is really awesome, I love him. Dan TDM, Pokimane. Chris Evans makes a cameo, and I mean actually, Captain America Chris Evans. But this video has a bit of commentary on sort of the gamer stereotype, and it doesn't really go into that very much. It just displays this stereotypical gamer behavior, the aggro, living in mother's basement, the language that supposedly gamers use, language that I don't tend to see in gamers, really. It's certainly not in the gamers that I watch. I don't behave like that. It's sort of the over-the-top stereotypes for gamers, and it's not really discussed, but it is displayed, particularly in our movie's main villain, Antoine, played by Taika Waititi, who of course is great, as he always is, who is this over-the-top game company CEO. You know how there's the stereotype of middle-aged people trying to be hip? Well, he is that. He is a walking stereotype. It's kind of annoying, but then again, I think that's kind of the point. He is the villain. Now, he's the villain who basically steals the code for this video game that our secondary characters were putting together prior to the start of this movie. There's actually a lot of commentary on that sort of side of things, the corporate side of things, the toxic environments that can be in these gaming companies, the stealing of ideas and copyright and all that stuff. Early on, and really kind of later in the game as well, it really shows real people in the real world mostly as gits. And it's a sort of interesting stylization to put on the real world in this, especially early on when all the NPCs are all nice and happy and jolly and just great people, and then we jump back to the real world and they're all twits. They do come together in the end, like Kit, Millie, and that third office guy whose name I can't remember. Later on in the movie, there is an NPC uprising, which is classic and a little bit cringe, but really wasn't as over the top as I was expecting. And after a bit of a chase around the free city and trying to get to the objective, which is the base source code, which shows itself in this island that's beyond the borders of the city, then comes the dude moment, which we've seen in trailers and is still great. It is actually less funny in the movie than in the trailers, because a lot of the humor is sort of in the parts that are in the trailer. That being said, the trailer bit is like 10 seconds long, and this scene is just full of references. It's great. Guy bringing up Captain America's shield and the Avengers theme playing, that was great. And then came a cameo with Chris Evans just looking into a phone saying, "What?" It's great. It kind of set me up, actually, because then when he brought out the lightsaber, I almost expected there to be another shot from, like, Mark Hamill. Also, it turns out that Guy's love for Millie is built into the code because of the other deuteragonist, or the tritagonist, and sort of explained at the end by Guy. And I don't know, that whole scene with Guy explaining it and Millie realizing and going out to get to Kit is, I don't know, it feels a little bit tacked on to me. It's alright, and frankly, Kit is set up to be a pretty good character, so I'm not that fussed, but it did feel a little bit tacked on to me. Also, the miracle kiss trope shows up. You know, the one where the main character has something wrong with them, their memory's gone or mind controlled or something, and then the other main character kisses the main character and the main character is magically back to normal. Yeah, that shows up again. Don't ask me how that could possibly work, it just does. Movie magic, yay! But yeah, all around, I feel like this movie fits the superhero movie genre. Not in the sense of being like most movies with superheroes in them. There's actually a difference. The video down in the description has a great discussion on this. Where a superhero movie, the genre, is more of the origin story. It is a main character discovering they have powers or gaining powers and learning how to use them, tackling their own inner demons, love stories and romance and secondary characters. And a villain who is the same as, but slightly different than the main character, usually. It's that sort of trope. As opposed to, say, most of the MCU, where, you know, there's ensemble movies, there's spy thrillers, there are space operas, there are war movies, There are a lot of things that in the MCU that aren't classic superhero movies. They feature superheroes, but they do not display the superhero movie tropes. This is very specific. Again, link in the description for a video discussing this. It's really good. No post-credits, so, well, it's not a Marvel movie. So all in all, was this a good movie? Yes, this was a really good movie. Was the humor a bit much? Yeah, there's quite a few moments where the humor gets to a point where I cringe a lot. Not all the humor is like that, but there are some, minute-long sequences with that kind of humor and just, So all in all, I'd say cringy humor, great story. Is this a movie I want to see again? I kind of do. Do I want to see it in the theaters again? I'm not going to do that. And I'm probably not going to get this on Blu-ray. But, it's a 20th Century Studios film, and of course, 20th Century Studios, previously Fox, owned by Disney. It'll probably be on Disney Plus in 3 months. So if/when it drops on Disney Plus, I'm definitely watching it again. So yeah, that's all I had to say on Free Guy, the new Ryan Reynolds movie. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like, leave a comment. What do you think about this movie? And feel free to subscribe to see more of my content. I've got Lego, reviews, workshopping videos, all sorts of kind of stuff, new stuff on the way, hopefully. And yeah, I hope you have a good time. So, thank you for watching, and you'll see me later.